Have you ever noticed how simple things like standing up from a chair or climbing a few steps suddenly feel harder than they used to? Maybe your legs feel weaker, or you find yourself a bit more unsteady when you walk around the house. It's easy to think this is just getting old, something everyone has to accept. But what if I told you it's not just age? It's something more subtle, something many seniors overlook until it quietly steals their strength and independence. This isn't about exercising less or moving too little. It's about understanding what's happening inside your body. In this video, we're going to explore 6 common arguments that wise seniors choose to avoid because they know where their energy is best spent. More importantly, you'll discover why some fights aren't worth it and how focusing on what truly matters can bring more peace and joy into your life. Stick around until the end, where I'll share the single most important habit that helped many seniors regain their confidence and feel stronger every day. Let's walk this journey together, because growing older doesn't mean giving up, it means choosing wisely. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. 1. Arguing about being right in small matters. Have you ever found yourself in the middle of a conversation that starts harmless but somehow turns into a debate about the right way to fold towels or which TV channel should be on during dinner? Maybe it happens with your spouse, or perhaps with a friend you've known for decades. It's usually over something so minor that you almost laugh about it later. Yet at the moment, it feels oddly important. There's that familiar spark inside, a little voice insisting, "But I know I'm right." So you try, gently at first, to convince the other person. Before long, the tone rises just a bit. You can feel the tension, and suddenly the cozy living room feels a little less comfortable. It's not that you want to argue, but you also don't want to let go of what you know to be true. For many seniors, these small skirmishes have become a quiet part of daily life, so much so that they barely even register anymore. It's easy to brush them off as nothing more than quirks of living together for so long. Yet if you look back, how many evenings have ended on a sour note because neither side wanted to give up being right about something small? But what if the need to be right isn't really about towels or remote controls or the best way to stack the dishwasher? What if this urge to win even tiny arguments comes from somewhere else? A habit picked up over the years, or a subtle way of asserting independence? Ask yourself, do you want to win, or are you looking for something deeper? Like to feel heard, respected, or valued? Is being right in that moment truly worth the ripple it sends through your peace at home? Maybe the real question is, could there be more freedom and more happiness in letting go, even when you know you could prove your point? The truth is that scientists have spent years studying why people argue about small things. It turns out, it's not just a quirk of getting older or spending too much time together in retirement. Psychologists say that after years of building habits and routines, our brains are wired for certainty. We all crave a sense of control, especially as we age and more aspects of life, our health, our finances, our children's decisions, start to feel less predictable. Small arguments become an easy battleground, a way to stake a claim, "This is how I do it, and I know it works." These little victories, in their way, feel reassuring. But the science is clear. While a lively discussion can sometimes sharpen the mind, constantly fighting to be right can raise stress hormones, put a strain on the heart, and chip away at the simple joys of daily living. Chronic tension, even from minor disputes, can lead to poorer sleep, higher blood pressure, and lingering resentment that festers long after the argument is forgotten. So what's the alternative? The good news is that there's immense power in simply letting go. Imagine what would happen if, just once, you allowed the towels to be folded the wrong way, or nodded and smiled when the TV was left on a different channel. What would you lose? Would your day unravel? Or would you find, instead, a sudden lightness, a release from the tug-of-war over details that, in the grand scheme of things, barely matter? Experts in relationship counseling often encourage seniors to pick their battles, focusing their energy on issues that truly affect their well-being, rather than using up precious time and patience on trivial debates. The key is to pause and ask yourself, will this matter in an hour, a day, a year? If not, it's almost always safe to let it go. One simple, gentle strategy is to practice what therapists call the gift of agreement. Next time you sense a minor disagreement brewing, try saying, "You might be right." Or even better, "Let's do it your way this time." This isn't about surrendering your dignity or pretending you don't have an opinion. It's about choosing harmony over victory. After all, nobody remembers who loaded the dishwasher last Thanksgiving, but everyone remembers whether the meal was full of laughter or laced with tension. Let me tell you about someone who learned this lesson firsthand. There's a man named Walter, a retired firefighter from Ohio. Walter spent most of his life solving problems quickly and efficiently. He prided himself on being right, because in his job, being right could save lives. But after retiring, Walter and his wife Linda found themselves arguing more often about things like grocery lists or the proper way to arrange the living room. One afternoon, Linda made a passing comment about how he never squeezed the toothpaste from the bottom. Walter's first instinct was to defend himself, but instead, he paused. He remembered a bit of advice he'd heard at his senior center: "You can be right, or you can be at peace." So Walter shrugged, handed Linda the toothpaste, and smiled. "You know, your way might be better." They both laughed, and the tension melted away. That moment became a turning point for Walter, not because he gave up who he was, but because he chose what mattered more, enjoying the precious time he still had with the woman he loved. It's never too late to make a different choice. Every day, we're given 100 little opportunities to choose peace over pride, to cherish togetherness over being right. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care more about your health, your happiness, and the warmth of your relationships. It means recognizing that the real victories in life aren't won by conquering others in arguments, but by finding ways to bring more laughter, gentleness, and more love into your days. So, the next time you find yourself on the verge of correcting someone or feeling that urge to make your point, take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what do I want to remember about this moment? Chances are, it's not the perfectly folded towels or the right TV channel. It's the sound of a loved one's laughter, the comfort of a quiet evening, or the gentle peace that comes from letting go. That's a wisdom that can only come with age, and it's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself, and those you care about. 2. Arguing over the past. There's a quiet ache that sometimes surfaces when we think back on our lives. Moments when words were said in anger, memories that never quite faded, regrets that sit heavy on the heart. It might be a disagreement with a sibling about something that happened decades ago, a misunderstanding with a friend that was never fully resolved, or a long-ago argument with a spouse that, even now, finds its way into conversations like a shadow at the edge of the room. For many seniors, these old stories have a way of returning to family gatherings or even in quiet moments alone, as if the past refuses to stay in the past. Maybe it's something as simple as recalling who missed a birthday, who forgot to call on a special day, or who said something hurtful in a time of stress. The details blur with age, but the feeling lingers, sometimes stronger than we care to admit. It's easy to think that holding on to these memories gives us some measure of control, or that replaying old arguments can somehow set things right, even years later. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. But what if revisiting the past isn't the answer at all? What if the peace we crave isn't found by rehashing old wounds or proving ourselves right one more time? Ask yourself, has holding on to these arguments ever truly brought comfort, or has it built invisible walls between you and the people you once cared about? Is it possible that, by letting go, you might gain more than you lose? Imagine if the energy spent on reliving old disagreements was instead used to make new, joyful memories. Could forgiveness, even if it's silent and unseen, be the key to finally feeling free? Science and psychology have much to say about why we cling to old disputes. As we age, our brains become more focused on the past, an entirely natural process that helps us make sense of our lives and share our stories with others. But there's a downside. Sometimes, the lines between reflection and rumination get blurred. Instead of finding meaning, we end up stuck in a cycle of regret or blame, replaying conversations over and over in our minds. Studies show that holding on to bitterness or unresolved anger can harm our health, raising stress hormones and increasing the risk of chronic diseases like heart trouble and depression. The mind, it turns out, isn't meant to carry so much weight for so long. Even the happiest memories can be drowned out by a single, persistent regret. So how can you move forward, especially when the past feels so present? The answer isn't to pretend nothing ever happened or to force yourself to forget. Instead, It's about practicing gentle acceptance. Acknowledge the hurt, but don't let it define your days. When an old argument bubbles up, try this. Pause and remind yourself that you are no longer the person you were back then, and neither is the other person. Both of you have grown, changed, and learned. Consider reaching out if it feels right, but even if you don't, you can still choose to release the grip the past has on your heart. Some people find it helpful to write a letter to the person involved, not to send, but just to put their feelings on paper. Others find comfort in sharing their stories with a trusted friend or counselor, letting the words finally leave the confines of memory. Let me share with you a story that might sound familiar. There was a woman named Helen who grew up in New York, the oldest of 4 siblings. 4 years, Helen and her sister, Margaret, barely spoke. The original argument started over something small, an inheritance dispute, a misunderstood phone call, and, as often happens, it spiraled into silence. Family gatherings became awkward. Birthdays went unacknowledged. Decades passed. After Margaret lost her husband, Helen found herself thinking about all the time they'd wasted, all the laughter and support they'd missed. One quiet afternoon, Helen sat down and wrote her sister a simple note. "I miss you. I'm sorry for my part in our fight. Life is too short to keep carrying this around." To her surprise, Margaret replied. It wasn't a dramatic reunion. There were no fireworks or tears, just 2 sisters, a little older, a little wiser, finally ready to let the past be the past. That single act of reaching out didn't erase their history, but it did give them a new beginning. They started calling each other on Sundays, sharing recipes, laughing about old times, and even supporting each other through their health challenges. Helen often said the greatest gift of her later years was the peace she found by letting go of an argument she once thought she'd never forget. You don't have to wait for a crisis or a wake-up call to make peace with your past. It can start quietly, with a decision you make in your own heart. Permit yourself to release old hurts, to forgive yourself as well as others. You might never hear the apology you hoped for, but you can still offer yourself the gift of freedom. Choose to focus on what you have now. The people who care, the opportunities to show kindness, the simple moments of connection. Each new day is a chance to build something better, not just for yourself, but for the generations that follow. When you show forgiveness and compassion, you model a different way of living. One that values healing over being right, and togetherness over keeping score. As you move through your days, remember, the past cannot be changed, but your future is still yours to shape. The stories you tell yourself matter. Let them be ones of hope, reconciliation, and gratitude for the lessons learned. If you find yourself starting to argue over old wounds, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself if it's worth the peace you might lose. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply let go. After all, the best years can still be ahead of you, not weighed down by old arguments, but lifted by the gentle freedom of forgiveness. Life is too precious, and time too short, to spend another day carrying what no longer serves you. Give yourself the grace to move forward. You deserve it. 3. Political debates that divide, not enlighten. There's an unmistakable tension that fills the room when the topic of politics comes up, especially these days. Maybe it starts with a quiet comment at the dinner table or a headline on TV, and suddenly, voices grow sharper, faces tighten, and what began as a friendly conversation between family or friends quickly turns into a battleground of opinions. You might have noticed it at holiday gatherings, in phone calls with grandchildren, or during coffee with old friends. Where there was once laughter, now there's a nervous hush, everyone wondering whether it's worth saying what's really on their mind. For many older Americans, these moments have become an all-too-familiar part of life, woven into the very fabric of daily interactions. And more often than not, they leave us feeling isolated, frustrated, or even betrayed by those we love most. But what if disagreeing about politics isn't actually about who's right or wrong? What if the urge to defend our views, sometimes passionately, even stubbornly, is less about changing someone's mind, and more about wanting to feel seen and respected in a world that's changing fast? Have you ever paused in the middle of a heated debate and wondered, is this conversation bringing us closer, or just driving us further apart? Maybe you've noticed how rarely anyone leaves a political argument feeling enlightened, only exhausted. Is it possible that the energy we spend trying to convince others could be better spent deepening the bonds we share, regardless of our differences? It turns out, Psychologists have long studied why political debates can become so divisive, especially for older adults. As we age, our beliefs are shaped not just by news or social media, but by decades of lived experience. These beliefs become a part of who we are, a lens through which we understand the world. When someone challenges those beliefs, it can feel like a challenge to our very identity. Add to that the rapid pace of cultural and political change, and it's no wonder so many seniors feel a powerful urge to defend their values. Yet, according to experts, most political arguments don't change minds. Research shows that people often become more entrenched in their views after a heated debate, not less. Instead of fostering understanding, these conversations can lead to anger, hurt feelings, and lasting rifts between people who care about each other. So, what's the alternative? How do wise seniors handle political conversations that threaten to divide rather than enlighten? The answer isn't to stop caring about issues that matter or to shy away from expressing your views. It's about choosing your moments with care and prioritizing the relationships that matter most. One gentle, practical approach is to listen more than you speak. If a friend or family member brings up a political topic, try to ask questions rather than make declarations. "That's interesting. How did you come to see things that way?" Can open a door where "you're wrong and here's why" closes it immediately. Another strategy is to set boundaries before conversations even begin, saying something like, "I value our time together, and I'd rather focus on what connects us today." It may feel awkward at first, but it can prevent conversations from spiraling out of control. Let me tell you about a man named Robert from Michigan, a retired high school principal who prided himself on staying informed and involved in his community. Robert had strong opinions, especially about politics, and wasn't afraid to share them. For years, he and his son, Jeff, found themselves locked in endless debates every Sunday afternoon, arguing about the news of the week. What began as lively discussions slowly eroded their relationship. Phone calls became shorter, and visits less frequent. One day, Robert realized he hadn't heard his granddaughter's laughter in months. That stung more than any political disagreement ever could. So Robert made a choice. The next time Jeff called, he started the conversation by asking about his granddaughter's new school, about the family's recent camping trip, about the weather. When politics came up, Robert listened more than he spoke, nodding and saying, "I see where you're coming from." It wasn't about agreeing or pretending to share the same views. It was about putting family first and finding common ground where it mattered most. Over time, the tension faded. They still disagreed, but they also rediscovered the joy of each other's company, the warmth of Sunday afternoons, and the unbreakable bond between father and son. You might never see eye to eye with everyone you love, and that's okay. What matters is remembering that relationships are more important than winning debates. You have the wisdom of years, the strength of character, and the power to set the tone for those around you. By choosing peace over conflict, you can create a home where everyone feels safe, respected, and valued, no matter their political leanings. So next time a political topic threatens to cast a shadow over your gathering, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself if this is a moment to enlighten or a moment to listen, laugh, and let love lead the way. Life is too short, and family too precious, to spend it divided by opinions. The real legacy you leave won't be a perfectly argued point. It will be the example of kindness, curiosity, and grace you showed, even in the face of disagreement. Remember, true wisdom isn't about having all the answers. It's about knowing what matters, and holding on to it with both hands. Choose connection. Choose peace. And trust that your quiet strength will speak louder than any debate ever could. 4. Generational clashes. Kids these days. It happens almost without thinking. Maybe you're watching the news and see a story about technology, or you notice your grandchildren glued to their phones at the dinner table. Perhaps you hear music thumping from a neighbor's car, or you overhear a young parent negotiating bedtime with their toddler instead of simply laying down the law the way you once did. You find yourself shaking your head with a mix of disbelief and nostalgia, thinking, kids these days, it's just not like it used to be. There's a pang of longing for the familiar rhythms of the past, a time when children played outside until the streetlights came on, when neighbors knew each other by name, and when respect for elders was second nature, not something to be negotiated. Maybe there's a quiet sadness, too, as you feel the gap between your world and theirs widening with every passing year. You love your children and grandchildren deeply, but sometimes their choices, their slang, and even their dreams feel like a foreign language. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. But what if those feelings of frustration or bewilderment weren't just about kids these days, but about something deeper? What if, instead of clinging to the idea that things are getting worse, we looked for ways to bridge the gap? Is it possible that the new ways, though strange at first, might hold unexpected wisdom or even a path to a closer connection? Consider this. Are today's young people truly more disrespectful, or are they navigating challenges we never faced, growing up in a world that changes faster than any generation before? What might happen if, instead of judging, we chose curiosity? What could we learn from them, and what might they learn from us? Sociologists and family therapists have studied generational divides for decades. The truth is, every generation believes the next one is going downhill. Our parents thought we had it easy. Their parents worried about radio and jazz music, just as today's grandparents worry about TikTok and texting. Change is hard, especially when it means letting go of ways that once felt certain and safe. Science tells us that as we age, our brains naturally prefer the familiar. It's a form of comfort, and it helps explain why new trends can feel threatening or even disrespectful. But research also shows that the greatest happiness in later life comes not from holding tightly to the past, but from staying engaged, open, and connected to those we love, even when we don't always understand their world. So what's the path forward when it feels like you're living on different planets from the young people in your life? The answer isn't to abandon your values or pretend you're a teenager again. It's about leaning in with gentle curiosity. Ask your grandchildren about the music they like, the games they play, or the issues they care about. Let them teach you how to use a new app or send a text, even if your fingers fumble and you need help more than once. Share your own stories, not as lectures, but as gifts, windows into a different time. Instead of criticizing, try listening for the emotions underneath: anxiety about the future, the pressure to succeed, or even the longing to make you proud. When you show interest in their world, you give them a reason to draw closer to yours. Let me tell you about Ruth, a retired teacher in Pennsylvania, who once felt completely at odds with her teenage granddaughter, Megan. Every family dinner seemed to end in eye rolls and silence. Megan lived on social media, ate vegan food, and was passionate about causes Ruth had never even heard of. One afternoon, after another awkward meal, Ruth decided to try something new. Instead of telling Megan to put away her phone, she asked, "Could you show me what you're working on? What do you like about these videos you make?" Megan lit up. For the next hour, she taught Ruth how to edit a short video on her tablet. Ruth didn't understand all the technology, but she listened and laughed at her own mistakes. Slowly, their conversations shifted. Megan started asking about Ruth's favorite books and what it was like to grow up in the 1950s. Together, they discovered that behind every kid these days story, there was just a young person wanting to be seen, and an older person willing to try. There is real hope in these small bridges. You don't have to become an expert in everything new, but every step you take toward understanding is a step toward keeping your family strong. The gap between generations will always exist, but it doesn't have to become a wall. When you show patience and curiosity, you invite your loved ones to do the same. And you might just find that their world, for all its differences, isn't as far away as you thought. So the next time you catch yourself sighing about kids these days, pause and remember, you were once a new generation, too, surprising your elders with your ideas, music, and dreams. You survived the changes, and so will they. Try to see the world through their eyes, even just for a moment. Ask questions, share stories, and let laughter do its quiet, healing work. After all, the most lasting legacies aren't built on judgment, but on understanding and love. In the end, every family, every community, is a tapestry woven from different times, different values, and different dreams. The threads may not always match, but together, they make something strong and beautiful. By choosing curiosity over criticism, you offer the next generation the greatest gift you have: the wisdom to stay open, the courage to adapt, and the heart to love without conditions. That's how we keep moving forward, together. 5. Family role disputes. Who does what, and why? It's a scene that quietly plays out in countless families. Someone stands in the kitchen, stacking dishes, feeling their frustration simmer while others sit in the living room, chatting or watching TV. Maybe you've felt it, a gentle resentment, a silent tally of who's doing what and who isn't. Or perhaps you're the one who worries that you're not helping enough, unsure where you fit as children and grandchildren take on more responsibilities. Arguments and unspoken tensions about who does what are as old as family itself, but they take on new meaning as we age. For many seniors, shifting roles within the family can feel like losing control, or like being left behind while the rest of life moves forward. Maybe you once ran the household, organized every holiday, and kept things humming along. Now, you might find yourself being asked to just relax, while others insist on doing everything their way. There's pride in what you've always done, and a sting when it's no longer your place. But is every family dispute about chores or caregiving really about laziness or duty? What if, instead of tallying tasks, we asked why these shifts feel so personal? Could it be that underneath the surface, these arguments are really about love, fear, and the longing to matter? What if, by letting go of old roles, or embracing new ones, we could create more understanding and peace? Is it possible that helping out sometimes means letting go, and letting go is the hardest, bravest help of all? Family researchers and therapists have spent years examining why disputes over responsibilities are so common, especially among aging parents and adult children. The answer, in part, lies in how we define ourselves. For decades, many seniors have been the backbone of their families, the ones who provided, cooked, cleaned, and cared for. When those roles change, it's not just a shift in chores, it's a shift in identity. Adult children, meanwhile, juggle work, their kids, and the new pressure of caring for aging parents. Often, both sides are trying their best, but communication breaks down. According to studies, most family conflicts aren't about who forgot to do the laundry or mow the lawn, but about feeling seen, appreciated, and respected. Underneath the surface, everyone is asking, do I still matter? Am I still needed? Do you see how hard I'm trying? So what can you do when you find yourself frustrated, feeling either invisible or overwhelmed? The simplest, and sometimes hardest, solution is to talk openly and honestly about how you feel. Instead of bottling up resentment or snapping about small things, try sharing what's really on your mind. I miss being in charge of Thanksgiving, or I worry about being a burden, or even, I want to help, but I'm not sure how anymore. These conversations can be uncomfortable, but they are the first step toward understanding and empathy. If family members are willing, set aside time for a gentle check-in. How are we doing? Are we happy with how things are divided? What could we do differently, together? Sometimes a simple change, like assigning tasks based on preference instead of tradition, can ease tension for everyone. Let me share a story about Mary and her daughter, Susan. For decades, Mary hosted every family gathering. She cooked the turkey, set the table, and made sure everyone felt at home. As Mary got older, Susan wanted to take over, but Mary resisted. She felt pushed aside, and Susan felt unappreciated. One Thanksgiving, after a tense morning in the kitchen, Susan finally asked, "Mom, what would you like to do this year?" Mary thought for a moment and realized what she missed most was making her famous pumpkin pie. So they agreed. Susan would handle the main meal, and Mary would bake the pie and help decorate the table. It wasn't the same as before, but it was a compromise, one that honored both Mary's sense of tradition and Susan's desire to help. That holiday was different, but it was warmer, filled with laughter and fewer tears. Both women learned that sharing roles didn't mean losing love, it meant finding new ways to express it. The beauty of families is that they are always changing. The roles you played 10, 20, or 50 years ago may not fit anymore, but that doesn't mean you've lost your place. Instead of seeing these changes as losses, try to see them as new chapters, invitations to grow together. Ask for what you need, and listen for what others are trying to say, even if the words don't come out perfectly. Offer your help where it's wanted, but accept help where it's needed. If you're feeling left out, speak up with kindness. If you're feeling overwhelmed, ask for support. The strongest families are not those with perfectly divided chores, but those where everyone feels valued, seen, and included. As the years go by, what your family will remember isn't who did the dishes or who ran the errands. They'll remember the love and patience you showed in times of change, the stories you told, and the way you came together, even when it wasn't easy. If you find yourself in a family role dispute, take a breath, step back, and ask, what do I want to hold on to? What can I let go? Sometimes the greatest gift you can give and receive is the freedom to grow into new roles together. In the end, it's not about keeping score or proving your worth. It's about recognizing that love takes many forms, and families work best when everyone brings what they can, when they can, with an open heart. So the next time tensions rise, remember, you still matter. You are still needed. And the story of your family is still being written, with you right at the heart of it. 6. Arguing with yourself, regret and self-blame. There's a special kind of argument that doesn't happen across a kitchen table or at a family gathering, but quietly, in the privacy of your mind. Maybe it strikes late at night when the world is silent and the memories start to stir. Perhaps you find yourself replaying moments from long ago, a word spoken in anger, an opportunity missed, a decision you wish you could take back. For so many seniors, this silent battle with regret and self-blame becomes more frequent as the years pass. It's not always dramatic or overwhelming. Sometimes, it's just a soft ache, a passing thought that lingers. I should have called her more often. Why didn't I save more? If only I had tried harder, maybe things would be different now. It's easy to brush these feelings aside during the busy years, but as life slows down, there's more space for them to echo. But is it rare to judge yourself by a standard of perfection that no one, no matter how wise or kind, could ever meet? What if these inner arguments aren't about right or wrong, but about wanting reassurance that you did your best, given the circumstances? Instead of asking, why did I make that mistake? What if you asked, what have I learned? What if, rather than beating yourself up for things you can't change, you looked for the courage it took to keep going, to love, to hope, to start again? Is it possible that true wisdom isn't about never stumbling, but about how we rise after a fall? Science gives us some surprising answers. Psychologists say that as we grow older, our minds naturally turn to the past, reviewing and making sense of a lifetime of choices, triumphs, and heartaches. This process, called life review, is meant to bring meaning and peace, but sometimes it can get stuck, turning into cycles of guilt or regret. Studies show that chronic self-blame raises stress, weakens the immune system, and even affects heart health. But there's hope. Practicing self-compassion, speaking to yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a dear friend, has been proven to reduce anxiety and depression and increase satisfaction and resilience in later life. Researchers say it's never too late to learn this skill, even if you spent decades being hard on yourself. So what can you do when the if only and should haves start to fill your thoughts? One gentle approach is to recognize these feelings as natural, a sign that you care deeply and want to make sense of your story. Next, try speaking to yourself as you would to someone you love. You did the best you could with what you knew at the time. It can help to write down your regrets, then imagine a wise friend reading them and responding with understanding, not judgment. You might also find peace in sharing your stories, with a trusted friend, a family member, or even in a letter you never send. Giving voice to these memories can help release their hold on you. For some, spiritual practices, prayer, meditation, or simply sitting quietly in nature, can offer comfort and perspective. Others find healing in small acts of kindness. Volunteering, listening to others, or mentoring younger people, turning their hard-won wisdom into a gift for the next generation. Consider the story of Frank, a retired mechanic from Nebraska. Frank spent years blaming himself for not reconciling with his brother before he passed. Every Thanksgiving, the regret returned, a shadow over what should have been a joyful day. One year, after a long talk with his granddaughter, Frank decided to write his brother a letter, not to mail, but just to say the things he never got to say. In the process, he forgave himself, remembering that both men had done the best they could. Instead of letting regret keep him stuck, Frank began volunteering at a local school, fixing bikes for kids in need. It didn't erase the past, but it helped Frank write a new chapter, one filled with purpose and connection, rather than self-blame. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. It's important to remember that regret is a sign of a caring heart, not a failing one. The fact that you look back and wish you'd done things differently means you've grown, you've learned, and you're still learning. None of us gets through life without mistakes, missed chances, or harsh words we wish we could take back. What matters isn't the regret itself, but what you do with it. Will you let it close your heart, or will you use it to grow gentler, with yourself and with others? So, next time the old arguments begin, the ones where you judge yourself for every wrong turn, pause. Take a slow, deep breath. Remind yourself of all the things you've overcome. Think of the people you've helped, the love you've given, the laughter you've shared. Give yourself credit for the ways you showed up, even when it was hard. Let the mistakes be teachers, not tormentors. And know that it's never too late to choose forgiveness, especially for yourself. Your life is a story still unfolding. The chapters ahead don't have to be written in the ink of regret. They can be shaped by acceptance, gratitude, and the gentle wisdom that comes from a life well lived, with all its ups and downs. When you show yourself kindness, you permit those around you to do the same, for themselves and you. That's how healing begins, not by changing the past, but by embracing the present, with all its possibilities. As you walk this journey, remember that you are more than your regrets. You are the sum of your courage, your compassion, and your hope. Every day is a new chance to make peace with your story and to offer yourself the same understanding you've so often given to others. Be gentle, forgive often, and trust that the best is still to come. As we come to the end of this journey together, I hope you found a sense of peace and gentle wisdom in recognizing the arguments that no longer need a place in your life. With each year, you've gained the freedom to choose what truly matters, and you've learned, sometimes the hard way, that being right is rarely as important as being kind, forgiving, and connected. The small disagreements, the old wounds, the political debates, the misunderstandings with younger generations, the tangled family roles, and even the silent battles within ourselves, these can steal precious time and energy if we let them. But wise seniors know that life is far too short and far too precious to waste another day on fights that leave only emptiness behind. Instead, you have the chance to fill your days with understanding, laughter, and love. You can let go of the urge to prove a point and embrace the gift of simply being present. When you release the need to carry old grudges or regrets, you make room for healing and a few beginnings. And when you choose connection over conflict, you set an example for your family, your friends, and the generations that follow. So, as you reflect on these 6 arguments, ask yourself, which ones are you ready to let go of? Which old burdens are you willing to lay down, starting today? I encourage you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Let's help each other build a more peaceful, joyful chapter, one conversation at a time. If this video touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories and wisdom. Remember, you are never too old to choose peace, and you are never alone on this journey.